Hi everybody, Lauren Shum here, and today we're going to talk about solar cells. Solar cells are devices that take light energy and turn it into electricity. And they're generally made out of semiconductor materials, which sometimes conduct electricity and sometimes don't, hence semiconductors. In order to understand why they sometimes conduct electricity and sometimes don't, we need to talk in terms of energy space, which is different from physical space. Physical space is all about where you are, and energy space is about how much energy you have, regardless of where you are. If we talk in terms of physical space, we can define perhaps that all the cars driving at a certain part of the highway are all part of the same physical space. Energy space, on the other hand, is kind of like talking about all the cars in the world that are driving above a certain speed. They could be here, or here, or here, but so long as they're driving above, say, 60 miles per hour, they all have in common that they all are above a certain kinetic energy, and therefore we can define them as being in the same energy space. Semiconductors have two types of energy spaces, the valence band and the conduction band. The valence band is at a lower energy than the conduction band, and it contains all the electrons that, in physical terms now, are bound to their atoms. Just like a rocket needs a lot of energy to break free of Earth's gravity, an electron needs a lot of energy to break free of its atom. Electrons that are moving fast enough to have broken free are said to be in the conduction band. This is really important because electrons that are bound to their atoms aren't very useful to us. They can't be collected. But electrons that are free, they can be collected. In a solar cell, these conduction band electrons are what fuels the DC current. You might notice that between the valence and conduction bands is an electron-free zone called the band gap. Taking it back to our car analogy, it's kind of like saying that only cars driving above 30 miles per hour or below 20 miles per hour are allowed on the highway. And you're not allowed to drive between 20 and 30 miles per hour. This might make a lot of sense for cars, but an electron can either be free or not free. It can't be somewhere in between. So for an electron to break free, it has to jump the band gap. But at absolute zero, electrons are simply too sluggish to move, so they're sort of stuck in the valence band. This is why semiconductors at low temperatures don't really conduct. As we increase the temperature, the average kinetic energy of all the atoms in a semiconductor increase, which means that every once in a while, an electron in the valence band might get enough energy to jump into the conduction band. This is why semiconductors at room temperature are more conductive. Because an electron is negatively charged, when it leaves the valence band, it leaves behind something positive called a hole, or a space where an electron used to be. In order to successfully collect electrons for an electrical current, we need to make sure that the electron doesn't recombine with its hole. Even though it's in a different energy space, it might not be in a different physical space, remember? Solar cells have something called a p-n junction, which keeps this recombination from happening, allowing us to collect the electrons that have been struck by photons and make electricity. Thanks for listening.